Happy New Year. God, it feels so good. 2025 is going to be a great fucking time. So, I plan on having this episode come out today, January 1st. That was the plan I had. But I think I need to start I need to find a day throughout the week to actually upload this episode. So, I already have it recorded as of me recording this, but this is, of course, going to be the briefing I go on before the actual episode starts. I recorded this episode December 29th. It was a Sunday night. It was like 1 a.m. when I started doing it. I just got home from doing stand-up for like the third weekend in a row, and it went really well, and I was in a great mood, and I was like, I need to capture this kind of aesthetic for the first episode to kind of lay the groundwork for everything. So that's what you're about to hear. It's about 9 minutes long. I go through all kinds of shit from like graduation, like being in high school, all the way up to now. Basically, I want to like give an overview of why I decided to even start a podcast and why I'm going to continue to do it. So hope you have about an hour and a half to kill, because it's going to be a good time. So without further ado, this is the first episode of Mama's Garage. Eventually I'll have some sort of intro music, but for now, don't worry about it. Enjoy. Thank you so much. Welcome to the first ever episode of Mama's Garage, the podcast hosted by yours truly, Luke Franklin. All right, so I have my notebook out and I have so many things to discuss. I'm going to try to keep this around 90 minutes, hour and a half, okay? But what I want to do is I want to give a pretty, like a good overview of how this podcast even came to be. And so I want to make sure we go over all the major points that have happened since I graduated high school, because that's really where all this stuff really became, okay? So, well, let's see. I've loved podcasts for a long time now, but I learned about them like way back in middle school. You see, there's this man named Joe Santagato who many of you guys may know right now, but I don't think most people knew him back when I discovered him, which I'm not trying to be a pose or anything, but, or, you know, like a hipster where it's like, oh, I knew it when it was before everyone else knew about it. But no, this Joe Santagato guy, just this funny internet man. I learned about him in middle school, and he's the first guy who I ever knew who had a podcast. He, of course, is the creator and the co-host of the Basement Yard podcast. This year has been huge for them. They sold out Radio City Music Hall during doing live podcasts. That's insane, man. It's awesome. But I would watch their episodes on YouTube, but I never like would listen to them like outside of home. It was kind of like it was almost like, you know, just interviews to watch on my TV when I was younger. But I got into podcasts like on Spotify, listen to them in the car or doing chores or listen to them at the gym. I started doing that right before I turned 18. So this would have been the summer after graduation. Now, graduating high school was one of those events where I knew it was coming, and so I had a lot of time to prepare for it, especially during my senior year. And it was I didn't feel it for a long time, like, cause I had so many summers that just felt exactly the same as when I graduated high school, but I didn't feel it. The general sense of leaving until the next school year started, and everyone I knew, you know, were either starting college or they were either staying in school. Like my brother, for example, starting his sophomore year. I was like, damn, I don't have to buy any school supplies. Matter of fact, his first day of his sophomore year, we did our classic first day of school photo, but this time I was like in a robe, and then I think I went back to bed that morning. So it didn't feel right. But without my senior year being as jam packed as it was, I don't think I would have felt the need to like find something new to use my time. Because the way I describe it is that I've been into podcasts for like a year and a half. It's damn near 2025. So that we're on the tail end of 2024. Today is December 29th. Well, I guess this is December 30th right now. It is almost 2 a.m. But point is that I've been telling people, I'm like, yeah, I'm a podcast fanatic, and it really started after I graduated high school because I had all this free time to fill in. Because let me walk you through how it was as a high schooler for me, or I guess as a senior. So the summer going into my senior year, I started a job at Walmart in OGP, online grocery and pickup, which that job sucked after a while, but it was a good first job. I get to work with adults, I get to work with customer service, all that stuff. It's important to do that, I think. But with my job, I also had to do school, and I also had I felt obligated to stay in drumline. And so with all those things and my cover band Pants, it was, oh, hello dogs. God damn, you're going to hear those the rest of the episode for sure. But anyway, here's how my week would work as a senior in high school. So we'll wake up on Monday morning, go to school at 7:40 a.m., which is early as balls, like big time early. And then after school, I'd have maybe an hour or so before work on the days I didn't have band, and then I'd work from like 4 o'clock to like 8:30 p.m. So that's like a 13 and a half hour long day. That's plenty. But on the days I didn't have work, I go to drumline. Same thing for the weekends. Most Saturdays were spoken for because I would have like 6 hour long rehearsals at drumline or otherwise competition days. And then Sundays were the only days I could work a full shift at Walmart. So I'd work from like 11 o'clock to like 7:30 p.m. So all the major hours of Sunday were just absolutely shot the window. But I had to pay for gas. It was a necessity, right? But I like ran this marathon as a 17-year-old, just every day, just always busy. I also had plenty of time to be social, which was awesome. I had my own car, so I was able to drive around and take care of myself and buy my own food and everything. It was nice to have the freedom. Everything was just kind of sucked up. So now after I graduated, I was like, well, shit, I have almost none of those things now. I'm still working at Walmart, but like 4 days a week. That's 3 days full of time. So of course I love music. We all know that. If you don't know who I am, I'm Luke. I play the drums. But sometimes music would feel like, I need to listen to this to prepare for this gig, or it would kind of take some of the joy out of it. So podcasts were a perfect segue into just like, I need something to kill time, but not have it feel like drums were becoming like a job, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, so I've been into the podcast for a long time, and early on in my growth, before I kind of finally came out of my shell as like a 16-year-old. I always say my junior year was like the time I finally kind of ran out of my shell. It was the first time where I was like, I went to school knowing I wasn't going to go to college after high school, and some shit happened at home where I was like, I need to distract myself with comedy and like try to be funny and stuff. So I finally like was at my full social potential as a 16-year-old. So like at the rise of my 16-year-old self, before all that actually, I was told I had a radio voice by a man named Carl Wagner. Now Carl Wagner is one of the most, I don't want to say underappreciated, but I just feel like you're only in school for 4 years as a high schooler, but you see him all the time. But he's been there forever. He's a great man, very fun to talk to, and he told me before he even knew who I was, he was like, "Wow, you have a radio voice. That's amazing." We were in like the vocational wing, and I was talking to like, Mr. Dunn. I'm using everybody's names. Fuck it. Talking to Mr. Dunn across the classroom. And Wagner was like, "Oh, wow, you have a radio voice." No one ever told me that before. Because growing up, I guess at the beginning of my teenage years, I had braces and acne and glasses, and I was a band kid, so I was like I was like, no, I was not nerd potential. I was like poster boy nerd, and on top of that, I had like a lisp sometimes if I didn't use my mouth properly, and I mumbled a lot. So my voice and all that, it never was it was always an obstacle. So then to hear Mr. Wagner say I have a radio voice, that really like boosted my ego. And I was like, damn, okay, cool. Then the next year I started trying to be a funny little man in class and stopped really caring about grades. I was more like, there's a lot of people in here. I'd love to make them laugh. And it was primarily in my English class with Miss Littell and my U.S. history class with Dr. Donna Peterson. What a lady. Um, First of all, shout out to her. She is the reason why pants happened, because she saw my band my junior year, which, in the spirit of giving everyone details, because I have so much time to kill on my own, my first band as a junior, it was we'll get off the Donna Peterson tangent in a second, I promise, but my first band was called the Deeper Beaver Toe Jam Football Chainsaw Milk Quartet. It was four of us. We were all in jazz band together, and we were like, let's enter the talent show and do some cool shit. Lo and behold, we actually win the talent show and we get asked to play on the football field later that Friday in that same week. So we just do the same thing in front of the whole school on the goddamn football turf, which was, at that point in my life, 16, fresh out of my shell. It was the coolest thing I had ever done. On drums, on anything. It was just, that was the apex of my life. It was awesome. It was so cool. And it was so cool, as a matter of fact, that when I was a senior, everyone in my first band, the quartet, everyone had graduated, so they weren't around anymore. But then Donna pulled me aside, was like, hey, do you still have a band? Would you like to do that again this year? I was like, I would be honored to do that again this year. However, everyone in that band is gone, but I'll text some guys who are in jazz band right now. We'll see what happens. And that's how Pants happened. And we'll go back to this in later, but Pants is a huge part of where I'm at today. And we'll go back on that. But back to being a senior. Like I said, Wagner said I had a radio voice, and the 16-year-old, I was coming out of my shell and all that. All of that being said, it turned out that I was going to be class clown alongside my good friend Reese Satter for the senior superlatives. And I know that's not exactly you don't put that on a resume, but when I got the email that I won class clown, I might as well have won a fucking Oscar. It was such an honor. That's something I never thought I'd ever be able to do. You'd hear about it in like TV shows and shit where it's like, oh, they're class clown, or like, oh, that guy's such a class clown. But like, to be given the title and then like doing a little photo shoot outside the cafeteria and have it be mass printed in all the all the yearbooks that year, it was amazing. I loved that part of high school, and I learned about it in like March or something like that. So like the rest of the year, I was like, I gotta be the funniest motherfucker in the room right now. I have a title to uphold to. Damn. But radio voice, class clown, coming out of my shell, all that is kind of what turned into this kind of a podcast kind of a thing. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I love podcasts. I also know that one of my weaknesses, and also, but in certain situations, if it kind of becomes a superpower, is that I know how to fill space with my words. And like I alluded to earlier, I when I was a younger teenager, I mumbled a lot and stuttered a bunch, and although that was something I didn't love about myself, it was something I knew I had to overcome. And over the course of some, I never went to speech therapy. It was surely just like trying my best to not do that anymore. And like, I hated people saying, what'd you say? Say that again. Sorry, you were mumbling. I couldn't hear you. All that shit. It just drove me nuts. And I knew that the only thing that was going to help, or the only thing that was going to change, is if I made the change personally. So Now look at me. I have my own little podcast studio, my own little room, doing my own little radio show. So let's start from graduation. Now that I've dusted off the beginning of this, I knew it was going to be a lot of tangents. I knew it. I knew that going into this episode, first episode. But let's see. I have, like I said, I have my notebook in front of me, and there's a lot of shit I have circled. And we're going to try to talk about in order, but I'm probably going to go out of order. I might forget shit. It's whatever. But let's see. So I kind of wanted to replace a lot of the time I was spending as a senior in my early adult life, because I had all those things going on, like Walmart and drumline and school and trying to sleep and trying to have a social life. So I knew that I could fill a schedule up and have it all done. So the fall of 2023, this was my first time ever being an adult. Here's the list of shit I had going on. I, of course, was still working at Walmart at this time. All right, that was my main job, okay? And then around this time, I started working at Greeks, which only recently left my life, but Walmart and Greeks. And then I was also tutoring in math with a woman's daughter at Greeks. Shout out, Maddie. Hope you're doing good. So Walmart, Greeks, tutoring. I was also working at the middle schools that I used to attend, and I was a drum instructor. All right, I was doing all of that, and also doing private drum lessons on the weekends and whenever I can fit it in around the week. That's like 5 different ways for me to make money. Only like 2 of them were like even viable. I mean, math paid well. That was for sure good. But it was just like weird parts of the week on Tuesday nights and stuff. But like I said, it was just a clusterfuck of shit that did not need to happen. And one of the most liberating things I got to do, I don't even know. I use that word a lot, liberating. I'm not even sure what it means. Well, it felt like I accomplished something. It was when I quit Walmart. It was November 28th, 2023. It was, I believe, 17 months to the day from the day I got hired. Because I got my driver's license and I got hired at Walmart on the same day as a 16-year-old. It was a pretty big deal for me because I waited a long time to get my license, but I wanted to get it before I turned 17. And I did it like 2 weeks of the day before I turned 17. And I got a job. It was a pretty big day for me. But June 28th, 2022 to November 28th, 2023 was my entire Walmart career span, whatever you want to call it. But then that left just Greeks and the middle school. Greeks is the pizzeria, for those who don't know. It's in Martinsville. It's on the corner of Main and Morgan. I worked there for a year and some change, we'll call it, as a server/manager. But along with math tutoring and the Greeks job and the terrible fucking middle school job, which I'll save you all the trouble of all that. Just know that the middle school job was so I could avoid being a drum tech at the high school, because I had been the drum line for half a decade, 5 years, from 2018, like the summer of 2018 to the spring of 2023. The drum line and the marching band at Martinsville High School was me. I did that shit forever. And to be asked to come back and tech for drumline was a natural thing to happen. I totally get it, but I was like, there's no way that I'm gonna keep doing. There's just no fucking way I would keep my sanity if I just stayed here on the opposite end of the thing. It would just suck. So I was like, hey, here's a compromise. I'll just work at the middle schools instead. That way I'm around younger kids. Everyone at the high school can grow up without me. That's important. And all those kids are going to think I'm 30 years old and I can just, teach them all the same shit. In theory, was a good idea. And to end this little tangent about the middle school, just know I did it all year and I was promised money that I never got. And so I'll never do that again under that direction. But it taught me some lessons and wasn't all bad, wasn't all terrible, but I don't recommend it. So anyway, Greeks, middle school job. The drum lessons back in 2023, those kind of faded away, so that wasn't a thing anymore. But with all of that, it just kind of I just wanted to try. I wanted to really really hone in and just kind of do everything I could all at once. But that didn't really work out after a while, and so before I turned 19, which as a 19-year-old I can say I've done a pretty good job being a 19-year-old, but we'll get to that later. Um, I just kind of felt like when I'm 18 and all my friends are out in college and I'm doing my own thing. It was kind of hard to feel like I was doing the right thing. I was practicing drums and I was, making money and everything, but it just felt like I was stagnant. I don't think, I feel like I used my time well because, I learned some lessons and, kind of learned how to like not. I did a lot of things that I could learn from, but I'll never do again. I should say that. But I'm kind of speaking in general terms. I want to get back into these actual events that happen. So let me just do that. Well, done talking about the marathon stuff. I call it marathon just to try to get my schedule all jumbled up. But let's see. Ooh, that's a good idea. We'll talk about the Tom Fiddlery shows. So Tom Henson is this really really nice man who owns his own music shop in Martinsville, right across the street from Greeks. Actually, it's called Tom's Fiddlery. Tom Henson is a really 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 good fiddle player, and he asked me to sit in for his band back in October 2023, and it was the first gig outside of high school that I was ever going to be paid for. It was like a professional thing, and it's country music. All right, country music is not my favorite. It's hold on, my that's being really weird. Sorry, my laptop is fucking over. Okay, we're still filming. Okay, we're still recording. Anyway, sorry. Technical difficulties in my first time doing this. No, so Tom asked me to be the drummer for his band, just for like 2 shows, and it was really cool to be asked that because I was just an 18-year-old kid. I felt like an 18-year-old man to myself, but to them I was like, oh, this fucking new kid, cool. We'll see what he has got. I went into it really arrogant, and I got my shit adjusted at these shows. God, it was so fucking, oh Lord. We're on great terms, me and Tom. Every time I see him, I always talk with him and stuff, and tell him how I'm doing and stuff. Tell him what kind of drum shit's going on in my life and everything. I don't know if I'll ever be asked back to play with them or anything, but I do know that we both have mutual respect for each other, and that's really important, especially for doing musical favors like this. But let me walk you through what it's like to be Luke Franklin in this country music setting. So I primarily have a background in playing just like alternative stuff on my own time, just like rock influenced things, but you have take your own like fun liberties with the music. It's just my favorite genres, just kind of alternative, kind of pop punk kind of a thing. I also used to play in jazz band in high school, so I have a history in that. So playing live, but playing drums is just fun, and certain genres make it even more fun. And I just never really jived with country music ever. I never listened to it on my own time, but Tom was like, "Hey, I'd love for you to sit in for these gigs." And I was like, "I'd be honored. That'd be awesome. So just throw me the list, and I can start learning them." So he shits me like a 30-song list, and I'm like, "Holy shit, this is big dog stuff. These are adults, damn." And it's shit that I've never ever either heard of or shit that I'm aware of, and I'm just like, that's really hokey, but it's gonna make the people happy. They're all like cover songs, but I learned them, and I just got so humbled at these gigs because these guys are all like really good musicians, especially Guy. This man's name is Guy, and he's the bassist, the most solid musician I've ever played with ever. He's just a fucking robot on this thing, right? So we'd be playing these songs, like we had a John Mellencamp song called Cherry Bomb, very fiddle, lot of inspiration is all that. Tom tore that shit up, but these songs were getting me, and I was rushing and dragging. I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, whiplash" and all that, but it's a real thing. You can't fuck with the tempo like that, especially live, especially with people who know how the tempo should sound and people who are familiar with these songs. So Guy would give me these like stink eyes and stuff throughout the show, and I'm like, "Oh fuck, this is," I'm like I'm like bombing out there, but I mean, I got the job done. We'll call it like a C plus throughout all this, but it's a learning experience. But then that was the first show. We did it at like some church, and we set up on someone's trailer, like a fucking like a trailer, like you tie it, like you not tie it, you like hitch it to a truck trailer. I'm like, damn. It was in like Danville, I think. Something wild, something like rootin' tootin' kind of a thing. And I'll tell this story because it's pretty funny. At this first gig, like I said, I went into it just feeling like, oh, I got it. Oh, whatever. It should be fine. Country music's a big old, it'll be fine. Whatever. And then all these musicians are just really well seasoned men. Uh, and so we took an intermission halfway through the first set, and I'm like, oh god damn, I'm like sweating. I'm like not in like a working hard way, in like a stress way, like pits heavy, like my forehead's cold and stuff. And Tom turns back and he's like, "Hey man, you're doing a really good job out there." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." He says, "Yeah, you're doing a really good job for a retard." I'm like, "God damn, Tom." And so that was just, like a bit of hazing. I totally understood what was going on. But when I'm behind the drums at this gig, and I met some guys on stage. I met them on stage that day, and we were like, okay, I guess we're gonna play these songs together. I was out of my element, and so for a second, I like believed him. I thought I was special needs for like a whole 5 seconds because I was sitting on my throne. There's no drum riser. All these other guys are standing up holding guitars, and they're all looking back and pointing and laughing at me, calling me a fucking retard. It was so fucking humbling. But then I was like, okay, well, if this is how it's going to be, this is going to be a lot more, I guess I can be myself around these motherfuckers. It'd be okay. But, I mean, god damn, that was just so tough to live through. And then we had to do another half of the set after that. But, like I said, that was fine. But then the next weekend, we did these on Saturdays, and it was much better. We played some songs on the second weekend that we did not play ever before because they were crowd recommendations. And so we played songs like Sweet Child of Mine, Copperhead Road, Don't Stop Believin', 3 a.m. by Matchbox 20. Those are 4 songs we did like towards the end of the set, and the ones we had not rehearsed, but ones that I knew. And so I was just playing the drums how I remember hearing them in my head with the band. That was really, really cool to just sit there and just like be a little boy fresh out of high school and like sitting in with all these guys. That was really cool. It was felt like a redeeming weekend. But the setting for this show was much different than the first weekend. Like I said, first weekend we're on a trailer outside of a church. The second weekend we're inside of a barn. There's like hay bales stored behind us, but there's like a wall that's like on like a rolling thing. It's like, barn doors kind of a thing. It's a barn, but there's like concrete flooring. It's like a well done thing. I don't even know where the hell I was at. I just followed, sorry, burp. I just followed the directions that Tom sent me, and I just fucking showed up. But it was one, I had one of these shows under my belt already, so it just felt much more comfortable at this time. So all in all, Tom's a great man. He was very, very nice of him to ask me to do that, and I think I did him a favor. And I'm not going to give you guys figures or anything, but earlier I said up at the middle school that I was promised money that I never got, which, not to say I wasn't paid at all for the middle school, but I was paid some. The money I made from these 2 gigs was 2/3 of what I made at the entire time at the high school, or at the middle school. So thank you, Tom. No thank you, middle school. But yeah, those shows taught me a lot, and I have a lot more respect for country music. So that's good. Now, what should be up next? That was the fall of 2023. We're just going to go through some big events up until now, and then we'll just talk about all that. So, I guess before that, I'm wearing the shirt right now. I saw Post Malone at Ruoff in Noblesville. Deer Creek, I guess it used to be called. You know the place. We all been there probably. I was asked to go by my buddy Ethan Hainline. Ethan, if you're listening, we're about 28 minutes in right now. Thank you. I want to say thank you again for bringing me. This was July. It was a year and a half ago now. Um, but I went with Ethan and Natalie and Daniel Urban. Great people from the high school. Never had Daniel in class, but he knew me from just knowing other people that knowing other students and everything, just through the grapevine. Saw me doing drum stuff around the school. Great man. He that was very fun to do that. Post Malone's he's a really good dude. Not that I met him at the show or anything, but I can just in people reading skills, he's just a nice energy to have around. I like it a lot. He's been on Kill Tony. I love Kill Tony. If you don't know what Kill Tony is, look that shit up. It's fantastic. But he's been on Kill Tony. He's been on Joe Rogan. He duetted with 21 Pilots like back in like 2019 or something like that. They did like an Oasis song. Great. That's pretty much all I knew about him going into the concert. I didn't really know a lot of his songs going into it. I knew Sunflower, which is like the Spider-Man song. I think I knew Rockstar. But then I didn't realize how fucking great of a performer he was, and I think he uses auto-tune on his voice, which, you know, whatever, that's fine. It sounds better, of course, but it I usually I'm judgmental about that because as a drummer and like as a aspiring musician, I want to do this professionally. Yeah, I just kind of look down on that where it's like, oh, that's kind of like cheating, but it didn't feel like that. And he's a really good, a lot of range in his voice, a lot of range musically. He did this is before he released a country album and stuff, but I love Post Malone. He's fucking awesome. And that show was great. I went in there knowing nothing about nothing but one song. Then I left there being like, I'm gonna go on a deep dive and listen to a lot of his shit. And then his new album dropped like a month later. Listened to all that thing, and now he's on my regular rotation. So that was really cool. So Post Malone, good man. Now that was Post Malone in July, Tom's Fillery back in October. I forgot to say, I got hired at Greeks around August, and that was because right out of high school, my band Pants, cover band Pants, no longer a band anymore, but we were doing these shows at Greeks like every 2 weeks over the summer, and those were a lot of good memories from all those, like 2 hour long shows. Like we put together a lot of songs together and like got them all done. It was really, really impressive what we all did. And I kind of got the job at Greeks through doing that. They were like, hey, you should be a server. And I was like, well, we'll see how it is. And they ended up doing it for like a year and a half. But yeah, nothing really happened in 2023 besides just discovering podcasts, graduating high school, and Post Malone and like that little band stuff. Well, I guess I could talk about working out. Yeah, we'll do that. So when I was like, I don't know, back when I was still mumbling and stuttering and all that, I've always been tall, but I've always had a little bit of pudge on me and then like not a lot of muscle on me. And I was never like a tubby ass motherfucker. I wasn't like, breaking furniture, but I just was never like impressed with my body ever. But when I got into drumline and I sort of like slimming out, just as like a young high school dude, high metabolism, I started seeing a transformation in my body that I wouldn't have had if I didn't go to drumline. And I realized that drumline was kind of a part of that. But it also meant that I wasn't really doing anything else active outside of drumline. So going into my senior year, I got a gym membership at Planet Fitness, and it was brand new that summer. And I was like, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna see what it's all about. Never been to a gym before, and just kind of got started. And so if you're listening to this and you have gone to the gym before and haven't gone in a while, and it hasn't like really or isn't like really a routine thing for you, let me tell you, if you haven't gone, you should totally go, and just go like even like once a week. It's good for your brain, good for your body. It's most certainly good for your body, but I find it being even better for my brain just because it feels like I'm progressing in a certain way, and it's good. It's good. And I also was trying to go to the gym a bunch as a senior in high school. Like I said, all that shit I had planned out with drumline, school, and work. I tried to go to the gym too and stuff. It just was kind of tough, but I wanted to just have a good segue from high school to adult life, and I want to make sure I wasn't just like, you know, like I don't want there to be any like gap in my activity kind of a life. So I was like, I got to make sure I go to the gym before high school. That way I can start going to the gym regularly after I graduate. And so to this day, I worked out before I got home today. It's great. You gotta do gym. Gotta do gym. Gotta do it. Like, I just think it's good for you. And if you're on the fence about going and you've never gone before, find a friend, even me if you know me, and be like, hey, I'd like to go to the gym and like figure it all out. We can for sure do that. There's nothing bad to come from it if you go to the gym. So that all kind of took place. Kind of got more serious about it in 2023, but not much really happened. Now that I'm thinking about it, but 2024 has been a very, very big year for me, and only after I really turned 19 does anything like really huge happen. So let's go through everything now. We're about 35 minutes in. I have about an hour to go over everything that's happened this year. If I want to stay on schedule, I think I can do it. So, for starters, I'd mentioned Post Malone earlier and talked about Kill Tony. So, Kill Tony is this comedy podcast that I've been watching every week for probably a year now. I think we'll call it, yeah, probably so, because God, there are the dogs again. So in a nutshell, if you don't know what Kill Tony is, you can find clips online, especially on YouTube or on TikTok or Instagram. But the man named Tony Hinchcliffe hosts this show. He pulls comedians' names out of a bucket, and they do a minute of stand-up comedy, and then Tony will interview them and kind of just get to know them a little bit and make fun of them and stuff. And he usually will have other like successful comedians on panel, just also holding a microphone and talking to those guys as well. Currently it's filmed at the Comedy Mothership in Austin, Texas. It's usually like a homestead thing, but they'll take on the road like to Las Vegas, or they've actually sold out Madison Square Garden. They did that this year. It's fucking crazy. But it's as a guy who loves stand-up comedy, it's the perfect show. I'm such a good consumer for that show. It's great. But I started watching that at the beginning of this year, we'll call it. And it's been a very, very good use of my time. I learned so much from that show. I've picked up on a lot of lingo and learning about other comedians I wouldn't have without the show. And by the way, there's also a live band on there all the time. Fucking fantastic musicians. They only play a little bit through, between stuff, but they're kind of there to like kind of fill out the music and kind of make sure the show has like a general guide to it. But it's a fantastic thing they're doing. I love it so much. Tony Hinchcliffe is on my Mount Rushmore of comedians, just because of that show. He's also like really fucking quick and really fucking funny. He's one of the greatest. Fucking roast guy. He's so good. But love Kill Tony. And that show itself manifested its way into my real life, which we'll talk about soon. I know I keep postponing stuff, but yeah, that was great. I also started going to the Comedy Attic in Bloomington, Indiana. This is a comedy club that is I know about it because I live 25 minutes away from it, and it's the closest comedy club to my driveway. So I go there pretty frequently. I've been there probably 15 times or something like that. I don't know. I go there as often as I can to see a lot of guys. But I went for the first time about in March, I'd say, of 2024. Saw a man named Sam Morrison, and my buddy Reese and I went. I mentioned him earlier. If you guys are listening to this, you guys probably know who Reese is. But we were the class clowns, so I was like, it'd be perfect for us to go to the. Oh, hello, Max. How we doing?
So sorry.
You're fine. Here, get on the mic real quick. Say hello.
Where?
It's right here.
This is the podcast?
This is the podcast.
What's up, podcast? Just letting y'all got home. We got Dylan.
Okay, cool. All right, well, I'll probably be in here for like another hour.
Right.
I figured you'd be coming in. I kind of was ready for it. I saw you pull in and stuff, so.
Yeah. All right, love you.
Love you too, bro. I call him Brar. it's a Brar thing. You wouldn't get it unless you're one of my Brars. So anyway, going to the Comedy Attic about, like I said, back in March, but Reese and I sat really, really close to the stage. And we did this because we wanted to, at least I wanted to, I wanted to, be as close as possible to the comedians as I could. Because I've been really, really interested in doing it at that time. And so that was amazing. I actually got picked on. I was just a victim of crowd work. And that was such a fucking cool feeling because I've been watching stand up on Netflix or YouTube or whatever it is since I was 11, and so I can always pause it, go back and rewatch and everything, but to see it that close live was crazy. The only time I'd ever seen comedy live before was Reese and I, again, we saw Pete Davidson back in November or something like that. No, it was probably October 2023, and then we waited several months before going back to the Comedy Attic. But we watched Pete Davidson in a theater, and he had 3 openers, but it was cool to see live for sure. But I never really, it didn't feel as intimate as the Comedy Attic, because the Comedy Attic is a small room. It's maybe 200 seats, if that, and usually it's at a third of the capacity, because I don't think enough people know about the club in town. It's kind of tough. But that first show was awesome. And then, you guys hear Max coughing? Damn, all the time. Then, the next week to the day, we saw a woman named Laura Peak. She was headliner. She is fucking hilarious. I love her so much. She is actually the sweetest person ever. I was outside of the Comedy Attic just waiting on the sidewalk, and I had only heard about her because I saw the list, the lineup on the Comedy Attic website, and I saw some of Laura's clips on her Instagram. She also did the Dr. Squatch show, and I think they host comedians sometimes. But she was telling a bunch of jokes about how she has a short husband, and I thought she was I don't know, 5'10" or 5'11", like a tall woman. And then when I see her in person, I'd never seen her. I'd not seen her before. But I see her walk through the fucking some alleyway from the hotel she's probably staying at or whatever. I was like, holy shit, that's her. And so she saw me pointing, and then I got her attention somehow, and she's like, hi, do you work here? And I was like, no, but I'm a fan. Which, I was 2 weeks into being a fan or whatever, but it was her. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. And she just talked to me for maybe a minute or so, but she was the sweetest person ever. It was so cool to see her. And I had my other buddies coming. It was about 5 of us in the group, but we got there kind of late, and it was I think they sold the fucking show out. It was great for her. And then we sat in the very back of the club, and then she did some crowd work on my buddy Ethan. Shout out Ethan Retz. And it was just so cool because she can command the room. She's always smiling, always in a great mood, and she's just a really good performer. But that was back-to-back weekends that I got to see Sam Morrison, and then I got to see her, and she was just like, dude, thank you so much for coming back. I love that you're supporting live comedy. I was like, oh, absolutely. This is I want to do this. I'm so interested. And so yeah, Laura, check her out, Laura Peak. She just did Jimmy Fallon. I hope she releases a special soon. She has a lot of clips on YouTube, and you can check her on Instagram and stuff. And I'll even reply to her Instagram story sometime, and she'll reply back to me and stuff. She's just just awesome. I love when people who I look up to actually care enough to, reply back and, see all the, just interact with fans. It means a lot to us. And I think she understands that and knows that. And she is always doing that. Another fucking heater I saw at the Comedy Attic. I can't even believe I saw this fucking show. Was a man named Sam Talent. If you don't know who Sam Talent is, pause my shit. Delete whatever. I don't care what you do. He's in my top 5 comics of all time. Not just because I had an intimate, show with him, and I got to meet him and take a picture with him after the show, and I got to buy one of his t-shirts and stuff at the Comedy Attic. But he's just he's fucking hilarious. He's also a scholar. I have his book over there. I need to read that soon. He has such a way with words. He has a special out on YouTube called The Toad's Morale. It's on Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast, their YouTube. It has like over 1 million views now, but I watched it like right when it was like brand new. I think it came out in December of last year, so it's about a year old or whatever. That special's hilarious. It's about 40 minutes or whatever, but it's so fucking good. God, I think he filmed it in Cincinnati, which is really close to here. It's like a 3-hour drive probably, but I think he filmed it at a. I might be wrong about this, but I think he filmed it at Go Bananas in Cincinnati. But yeah, just the Comedy Attic is just crazy. It's such a good fucking cool spot there. I saw Mike Vecchione at the Comedy Attic. He's another comedian I really really enjoy. Most recently, I saw Shanda Sung, who she's a local comedian. She's great. I've seen her live a few times now. She also has a special on YouTube called Pickles, which she filmed at the Comedy Attic, which is really cool because it's like a local thing, and it just really shows really cool, and it shows how easy it is to just put shit out on YouTube and everything now. It's just really really cool and neat. Trying to think of all the other shows I've seen. They kind of escape me right now, but I saw a guy named Caleb Sinan. I went there on my own. He was great. I got to talk to him after the show for a while. That was back in like I think October or something. He was awesome. But if you're local and you're listening to this, you live in like I don't know. You're probably everyone listening to this right now in the next few months or so while this is like going up. You're probably around me, and so you're aware of Bloomington. Go to the Comedy Attic. It's never a bad time. I always have a good time there. There's an open mic there on Wednesday nights, which I'm trying to do eventually. We'll talk about my own stand-up stuff at the very end of the episode. But anyway, I just love the Comedy Attic so much. It's such a treasure to have around town. Another comedy club, which I've been to twice now, is it's Helium in Indianapolis. Helium is a much more well-known, nationally known club because it's a series. It's like a chain club. So there's the Helium in Indianapolis, the Helium in Philadelphia, the Helium in Buffalo, and then there's one in Portland, and I think also in St. Louis. I think there's 5 of them in the USA. But I saw a man named Dan Soder back in July, right after I turned 19. That was awesome. It was like a treat for myself. I just went by myself to the comedy show. I saw the early show and the late show. It was really really fucking worth it. It was so cool. Also saw Joe List in September this year, and that was really really good as well. But yeah, just live comedy is just the coolest. You gotta go see it to believe it. Now back in the spring, some cool shit happened. We were, like I said, working at Greeks. There was the eclipse happened back in April. What was that? April 8th it was? Yeah, April 8th. The eclipse happened. It was on a Monday, and I worked 12 hours that day. And although the eclipse was really cool, I don't think I'll ever be able to experience it at that like clarity ever again. Something very important to my current day life happened that day. Jude, if you're watching or listening right now, thank you very much for being there that day. For those of you who are listening in or who are not Jude Haywood, which is most of you, listen to this story. So Jude and I have known each other since 6th grade. Back in 2016, we met in middle school at Bell Intermediate Academy, and I knew he was an orchestra kid for forever, and I've been playing drums since I was 11, and so it felt like a natural pairing of the two of us to play music together. But throughout middle school and throughout high school, it never ever happened. Like maybe during like full orchestra stuff, like for band concerts, but never on our own volition. But Jude's a cool guy, and we were much better friends in middle school. We didn't hang out with the same people in high school, so we drifted apart. But then I ran into him on the day of the eclipse, which he lives like only a few blocks away from Greeks, and he was walking with his buddy Rafe, who I now know and I'm also friends with, and I was like, "Oh, what's up, Jude? How you doing?" He's like, "Hey, like what?" This is my Jude impression. Hey, Luke, what? You look really handsome, whatever. He said that for sure. He totally said that. I'm kidding. But we talked for like probably half an hour on the sidewalk just outside Greeks, and he told me about this band, a band he's in up at Ball State in Muncie, Indiana. Band's called Tinted Plates. And at this time, I was still in Pants, the cover band that I mentioned. Our last show was in August, but I was like, I knew it was going to come to an end soon after they all went to college. Everyone else in Pants, so I was like, I need to get something else set up. So naturally, and then in the spirit of networking, I was like, Jude, if you ever need a drummer, I know a guy. Of course, gesturing to myself, and I just kind of put that out there, and I followed them on Instagram and caught their shit on Spotify and Apple Music and all that, and just then I listened to their stuff on my own. I'm like, hell yeah, dude, this is like, really cool. Guys my age are doing some shit just right up, north of me, just up in Muncie, and I know one of the guys. He's part of it. It's a cool little project. So listen to all that shit, and then like we'll call it maybe 6 or 7 weeks later, Jude texts me. It's like, hey, do you want to be the drummer for my band over the summer? And I was like, abso-fucking-lutely. So we get this shit set up, and at the beginning of July, oh, that's fucking loud. You guys hear that? Damn. Oh, they're turning it down. Sorry, it's the TV in the other room. It's what I'm hearing right now. Whatever, it's fine. Anyway, so what was I saying? Yeah, back then at the beginning of July, I'm still an 18-year-old. I meet all the members of Tinted Plates because we meet up at Jude's house. And we're rehearsing for a few gigs that they had planned throughout the month. But I met a man named Avery Gates. He's our lead singer, vocalist. He's the nucleus of the band. He's the one who started all of it. He has the most knowledge with everything. I'd call it, in second place, we have Nate Corman. Nate, I know you're listening. You're a big fan of what I like to do. You even encouraged me to do the podcast like back in fucking when we first met or something, because you saw my Snapchat videos. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, Nate. But Nate's also one of our lead guitarists. I think I called Avery our lead. I don't know. I'm the fucking drummer. They play strings and shit. I don't know how to fucking judge them in order and everything. But of course, then there's Jude, who plays rhythm guitar and sometimes will have some solos and whatnot. Then we got Rafe, who's on bass. And then we have TJ, our beloved TJ, who has this lovely voice. Speaking of TJ, if you want to hear what TJ has to offer, sorry Max, heard you coughing across the walls. But if you want to hear TJ singing, his beloved fluffy nice voice, check out our song Icarus off the Tinted Plates EP album, which came out I think in like March or something this year. My drums are not present on that EP, but I do know all those songs, and we usually play all those songs live. They're fantastic. I love those songs. But check out all the shit, all the Tinted Plate stuff from now on. Just make yourself well versed. It's my band. I can call it my. It's really fun to call it my band. It's great. We're official. We're going steady, if you will. But like I said, I met all the guys in July, and we rehearsed in Jude's little, I don't know if you call it a garage. It's kind of like a clubhouse situation. It's like in his yard in town, but it's just this really cool little hut. I keep using the wrong words for it. It's a building. It has bricks and a ceiling and electricity, but it's very boomy in there. But it's great. It's a great rehearsal space. We did it in town too. And then we played this gig, and my first gig with Tinted Plates as the stand-in drummer for the summer was in this house in Indianapolis. We went to a woman's living room. Shout out Dana Scully and the Tiger Sharks, which are no longer a band, but back then and back in July they were a band. I forget what day was this. This was July 9th. So I think it was on like a Thursday or something. I don't know. It was some random day of the week that I had off to myself, and we just fucking tore it up in a living room. We played like 6 songs, and most of them were our songs. And we played a song called "Kill Me Girl" by the Backstreet Lovers, I think. It's a great song. We love playing that one live. But that was one of those shows where I was like, this is gonna be it if everything goes accordingly, and I become a successful drummer, able to provide for myself and my future family, just playing shows around the world. This is going to be one of those shows that I will remember fondly, and not take for granted, because it's a foundational show. You got to play those shows. You got to play those living room shows to build a foundation, and it was so worth it. So much sweat, so much camaraderie in the room as well. A lot of musicians. It was us and like 3 other bands. It's cool. I wonder if I can forget. Wonder if I can remember all their names. Shout out the Michael character. Shout out X Dirty Fingers, and of course shout out Dana Scully and the Tiger Sharks. But later that month, I believe, was our first Tinted Plate's first gig in Muncie. My first gig with him in Muncie is at this bar called Be Here Now. We've played there 4 times with me as a drummer. Yeah, July, then maybe August, September, October, maybe 5 times. No, I don't know. Something like that though. Twice downstairs and 2 or 3 times upstairs. It's a really, really cool venue. I love that place. I'm very familiar with it these days. But Tinted Plates has been a very, very cool thing, because I also got to write and record drums for a song that is released and you can listen to right now. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, all the other platforms. It's called Push Me Away by Tinted Plates. I am the drummer. My name is at the bottom of the lyrics on Apple Music. It is the coolest thing to hear. Of course, I'm not sick of that song, but it's not going to hit the same way every time I listen to it. But we recorded it at Jude's house, and it was just, I was 18 when I recorded that, and it means a lot to me that even exists. So thank you, Tinted Plates, for giving me the opportunity to do that, and for letting me be the drummer, because I still, to this day, I'm the newest guy, and I think I'm the youngest guy in the band too. I might not look like it because of my beard, but for sure the youngest guy. But we're going strong. Our last gig was in December. Our December 14th it was, and that was a lot of fun. And then our next show is January 17th, which I've yet to make a post about. But that's coming up, same place. Be Here Now. It's been great. But we're working on an album. I'm running through these songs that we have half written, and trying to get these ideas fortified, and recording should be coming up soon, and I'm just really excited about that. But Tinted Plates has been a very huge part of my 2024 year, and as a 19-year-old, it's really cool to just have a band, my band, to play shows with. So cool. Oh yeah, speaking of recording and this band, I finally managed to save the money and get all my shit in order, all my affairs in order, and contact Sweetwater up in Fort Wayne. Sweetwater is the biggest music store of all time. Online shopping makes it really easy, but I bought, and I now own, my dream drum set. My SJC custom drum set with my Remo heads, DW hardware, Zildjian cymbals, Vic Firth sticks, and me as the owner of all of that. I've been daydreaming about having this set of drums since I was like 12 years old, just learning about all the shit on my old laptop, and looking at all the websites and hearing cymbals that I now own. It's a really, really cool thing that I got to pull off as a young adult. Actually, I had all that before I turned 19 years old. Yeah, I got it in June of this year. God, yeah, no, I did do that, didn't I? Wow. Before Tinted Plates too. So the drums recorded for Push Me Away is SJC and Zildjian cymbals and Remo heads and Vic Firth sticks, and all supported by DW hardware. My shit, all right. But my SJC kit, that's something I have been working for working towards forever. They're the coolest drum company. I'm wearing one of their hats right now. I have a flag on the wall that says SJC Custom Drums, built with passion, played with pride. That's fucking for sure true. There was not a single other company I would ever want to drum for more than SJC. They're just the coolest. God. But I own one of their kits and I'd have so much pride in it. It's the coolest. Speaking of drum kits though, I played a drum set that was not SJC. I did it live. It was for only one song, but it was live and it was not an SJC kit. Allow me to tell this story. So earlier this year, back in March 1st, I believe, a band by the name of Games We Play, a pop punk band that's been around for a few years now that I've recently took a liking to, they released an album called Life's Going Great. And I'm a huge fan of this album. I know all the songs now, but the song that I consider my favorite for more than one reason now is called All of My Untalented Friends, which is kind of I don't listen to the lyrics all that often, but what I gather from the song is that it's about a young man moving to California, Hollywood, Los Angeles, whatever you want to call it, and just kind of getting sick and tired of all like the dumb bullshit that, you know, up and coming wannabe celebrities kind of pull. And it's just a satirical song, but that song is very fun on the drums and it's not too hard, and so I felt comfortable recording myself playing it in the hopes of having the band see it. And then when I saw them live in Indianapolis back in September, maybe they'll let me play on stage. It was a lot to ask from them, but what ended up happening was I did that. I took that song, I learned the drums to it, I recorded myself playing it on my SJC kit. I added the takes together and put them all in this big ass clip, put it on my Instagram, and I was reposting it every day for a week leading up to the concert at the Hi-Fi in Indianapolis. And I got to live out that dream of mine. I got on stage at the Hi-Fi, the concert, and I got to sit on the drums and play that song for the entire crowd. Met the band, met the drummer, met Emin, who's the vocalist and the main guy behind it all. The sweetest dude ever. He's so cool. And I got to just tear it up and play it live on stage. It was just the coolest shit fucking ever. I said earlier that playing on the football field with my old band was the coolest thing I'd ever done. This moment right there, playing that song, All My Untalented Friends, at the Hi-Fi, is the coolest thing I've ever done. Of course, I'd like to top that one day, but it's going to be kind of tough to do. Everything worked out perfectly. Everyone was so supportive. And I met some friends in line outside of the venue at the Hi-Fi named shout out Sabrina and Andrew. Sabrina recorded the video and she sent it to me through AirDrop, and I had some of my files and actually can watch it in 4K on my laptop and just relive that moment all the time. It's so cool. I can literally think about that once a week now because it happened a few months ago, and it's just God, it was the coolest. Another thing, I went there by myself. I went to Helium by myself. I've gone to the Comedy Attic by myself. I learned that you can just do that in life. You can just go places on your own, just finagle your way around, and just, don't break any rules, but just, meet people and make memories for yourself. It's fucking awesome. You should do it. I did it, and a lot of good shit happened. It's been great, but shout out Games We Play. Just a little recap. Check out Tinted Plates, my band. Check out Push Me Away to hear my drums live on that recording, all right? Push Me Away. Check out Laura Peak. Check out Sam Talent. Check out the Comedy Attic and Helium Comedy Club in Indianapolis. And also check out this band, Games We Play, the coolest band around, aside from 21 Pilots. They're, of course, my favorite band of all time. And I got to see them live in October in Indianapolis. The only two bands the only two concerts I've been to this year. I've been to a lot of comedy shows. I've only been to 2 concerts. They were both in the fall. But Games You Play and 21 Pilots both had albums come out this year around the springtime. The album that 21 Pilots released is called Clancy. It is by far my favorite album of the year. The runner-up is, of course, Games You Play. Life's Going Great. Yeah, I can't praise those albums more. They're my favorite. They're so good. They're both 13 songs long, and the replayability is just insane. So good. So good. Love it. Now I'm looking at my notebook, trying to go over some things I've already talked about. I talked about the eclipse. Talked about I can talk about New York. Fuck yeah! So my mom turned 50 years old this year. My mom. Let's talk about my mom for a second. She's like right over there. I'm pointing through my wall. She lets me live here still. That's really nice of her. I'm an adult. I have my own podcast. I have a new job, which we'll talk about later. That's kind of been a pretty good mantra for this episode. We'll talk about that later. We will. But no, I'm an adult. I have a job. I could if I had to. I'd pull it off. I'd have to live by myself. It would suck, but I could do it. But she lets me live here rent free, and it's very much a blessing. I've lived in the same room my whole life. I've named the podcast after her, also with the garage. But let's talk about the name of the podcast real quick, because I've yet to mention that. So, like I said, the podcast is called Mama's Garage, and that's not a name that I feel like most people are going to be able to totally understand what it is just from hearing it. But allow me to paint the picture of what the vision was. I picked out this name for the podcast when I was like probably 16 or 17, because I've always if I had a podcast, I'd love to name it something like that. So then I've had this idea in my back pocket for a long time. Matter of fact, when I got my first batch of professional music gear from Sweetwater, I spent a lot of money in my senior year doing that in this one big purchase. I filled out the address, my address, but then you can add like a business line or something like that, and I put Mama's Garage on the business line. So all my packages have been saying Mama's Garage for the past year and a half, almost 2 years. No, it has been 2 years. Yeah, in November, been 2 years. So I've had this idea for a long time to call the podcast that, but at my home growing up, when my dad lived with us still, my dad would have his garage across the property. Him and his dad built it back in the 80s, and my dad's a big old car guy and always has vehicles out there, always doing some shit out there. But it's detached from the home, of course. But then we have the other garage, and since that's my dad's garage, we just call it the other garage my mom's garage. Mama's garage. We call my mom Mama around here, Mama Franklin. But Mama's garage is where she would park. We'd have an outside fridge where we keep drinks for my mom's baking ingredients. We have a freezer out there, just garage shit. A lot of spare tools and stuff of that nature. But she would park in there, and then eventually when I got into middle school, that's where my drums would exist. And so I did so much personal growth, not just as a drummer, but just earning my identity and learning about myself in that place, Mama's Garage. That 40 or 20 by 20 square foot, it's probably 40. I don't know, whatever. It's a pretty small place, but it's a sanctuary of creation and progress. And without that garage, if it did not exist, first of all, I have to find somewhere else to do my drums. That's probably what the podcast would be called. But the fact that garage is where I've done everything, it makes total sense to call it that. To call the podcast Mama's Garage, because I've recorded so many drum videos in there. I've sweat my ass off in there so many times. I don't know how many hours I've drummed, but it's been several hundred hours. My drums have primarily lived in there. That's just where I have just been It's where I belong um, when I'm creating, and it it's just the place. I don't and without it, I wouldn't be the same guy I am now. And so I thank my mama, for letting me drum out there, and you can hear it inside the house for damn sure. It is not it's not quiet at all. It's a very loud thing that I do playing the drums. But she's my biggest supporter, my biggest fan, always has been, always will be. And sometimes I like to, which not, I say sometimes, I as much as I can, I like to repay the favor and do things that she also enjoys, and be her supporter. And so, like I said, she turned 50 years old this year, and when she turned 40, um, she went to New York City, and I was like 9 years old at the time. I stayed home with my dad and my brother. But this year I'm 19, I'm an adult, and so she invited me and her other friend Stephanie from work, and the three of us went to New York together. New York City, Manhattan, Times Square, Madison Square Garden. Saw Madison Square Garden in real life. I saw the Empire State Building. I saw parts of Central Park. Saw Trump Towers. I saw a slew of homeless people. I got to eat pizza right next to the Church of Scientology. I got to eat gelato right off Times Square. I got to see some breakdancers on Times Square. I got to eat at the Olive Garden behind the bleachers, the red bleachers, on, guess where? Times fucking Square. It's the coolest place I think I've ever really been to. Love New Orleans. I love New Orleans a lot, but I don't know. There's just a huge comedy scene there, and so much history, and so many movies have been filmed there, and it's so cool. But it's one of those places where I was like, I need to go there just because it's just one of those places on earth, like Hollywood, California. Like, you got to go to these certain cities, and especially in the U.S., where that was the chair closing. Where you just gotta mark it off your list. Like, you just gotta go. Like, oh, you haven't been there before? You should fucking totally go. It's New fucking York. So I was very happy to go. I got to go to the Friends Museum, of course the sitcom. If I wasn't holding the microphone, I'd probably do like the 4-clap thing, but not that. I'm not gonna stoop that low. But I am a huge Friends fan, and that was really cool to see. I got to see the replicas of the apartments and everything. Just a overall cool ass experience. Rode some double-decker buses and saw all kinds of stuff. So cool. New York was great. We stayed there for about 3 days, and I saw Moulin Rouge, the musical. It was awesome. Blinking on. Oh yeah, I also got in and saw the Empire State Building. That was great. I feel like we're missing out on some other stuff, but did a lot of walking. Bought a cool hoodie. Saw like an H&M store. A lot of great food. So much good food. So much good pizza. Let me talk about this pizza real quick, and then we'll go on to a different topic. We stayed at a hotel right off Times Square, which was awesome. The Marriott. It was great. Great deal on the rooms too. But there was this pizza shop right across the street from it, and it was the same building as the Church of fucking Scientology, like I said earlier. But I got a Hawaiian piece of pizza, which was fantastic. These huge chunks of pineapple, a little bit of ham on there as well. I got a margarita piece, was great. I got this weird like sausage and pepper pizza like slice in there. I got a grandma slice, and I got like a lasagna slice. But I ate it a lot. It was really, really good. I even brought it to the airport in Newark. Not New York, Newark in New Jersey. And I brought that pizza through airport security and then ate it at the terminal before I got on the plane. It's that fucking good. It was so goddamn good. Such a good New York experience. I'd love to go back. Wish it wasn't raining the whole time. That did put me in a compromising mood. But yeah. So let's talk about the biggest part of my year. One of the reasons why I'm even doing the podcast is to fuel this aspect of my life. So as I said earlier, I've been mentioning it. I've been watching a lot of comedy. Stand up comedy is a huge part of my life now, more than it has ever been. But uh, I got into it like years ago, like before I even like started playing the drums. Right. I have a very vivid memory of coming home from school in 2016. Uh, this was in sixth grade for me, and it was the first time I'd ever come home from school and just got off the bus and was just doing shit in the house by myself. But I had access to Netflix, and I saw something that they were trying to promote to me, and I was like, "Who is this Dave Chappelle? Who is this man?" I was like, "Sounds kind of funny. I'll click on it." Now, of course, I'm talking about Dave Chappelle, who is just a renowned funny man. The Chappelle Show is hilarious. Those the special I was seeing was like brand new at the time, back in 2016. I'm pretty sure Dave Chappelle has 8 specials on Netflix now, and it's only been like 8 years, which that's an hour per year, which is a lot of comedy. It's a lot of shit he's pulled off. But back then, I didn't really know what I was watching. I didn't get all the jokes, and it's really fun to rewatch that stuff. But that got me into a lot of other stand-up. So my mom has been a loose fan of the genre or the art form for a long time. So she showed me stuff like Chris Rock, Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murphy's Delirious, Eddie Murphy's Raw. Fantastic. Just great performer Eddie Murphy is. And so I learned a lot about that. Then on my own time, I found out about Tom Segura, John Mulaney, Louis C.K., a slew of other guys. Like, of course, found out about Pete Davidson, who I mentioned earlier. And those were just a lot of the ones I would rewatch would be on Netflix. And I love those guys a lot. So throughout middle school and high school, it was something that I like. It was just I just kind of watched it like how movies were. They're just like, oh, I have free time, I'll turn on Netflix. Oh, maybe I'll watch stand up, or maybe I'll watch a movie. I didn't really give a lot of thought. But like I said, I won class clown as a senior, and I started posting all these videos on my Snapchat, and it kind of became a thing that I do. Where now that I am a class clown, and I routinely put shit on my Snapchat, which I believe there's the only reason why I won class clown was because of my Snapchat. So really, I'm not even a class clown. I'm just like a virtual clown. But it did earn me the title, and I'm not gonna take that away from myself. But stand up throughout school and all that, it was just kind of a side thought. But then when I graduated and had all this free time, podcasts happened, and I had this class clown aura over my head. I started giving comedy like a really good. I like dove into it. And something I learned about myself is that I have the ability to like kind of retain information for as long as I need to. But if it doesn't stick to my brain, then I know it's not something that I love. But if it's something like I can like hear like a song on a song and like pick the drums out for like hear the song twice, and I can probably play that song out. It just with music and specifically drums, it sticks to my head so much easier, and I have the ability to kind of do that. But like if you give me some sort of if like have me like watch sports or like explain to me like rules about baseball or whatever, I can do that shit while I'm watching, but then wait a week and now that shit's gone, right? But listening to all these podcasts, it's kind of like going to like comedy college. There's a huge list of podcasts that I love, and I'll list them all off real quick if I can. But of course, I got started on the Joe Rogan Experience, so we'll call that one Joe Rogan. I mentioned Tom Segura earlier. He has Your Mom's House. Love that. Everyone loves Shane Gillis, so we'll put Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast. I mentioned them earlier about Sam Talent. Sam Talent has a podcast called Chubby Behemoth. That's the fourth one. Two of my favorite comedians ever, Sam Morril and Mark Norman, they host a podcast together called We Might Be Drunk. I almost said Two Bears, One Cave. Another podcast that Tom Segura does with Bert Kreischer. Love that. Another Mark Norman podcast he does with Joe List, and Joe List, who I've seen live. It's called Tuesdays with Stories. Fantastic. Not to mention one of my favorite comics ever, who I've also seen live, is Dan Soder's podcast, just simply called Soder. I listen to that shit every week. It's one of my favorites. And then, of course, you can't leave out these guys. Are You Garbage? Love some Are You Garbage boys. Fucking H. Foley and Kevin James Ryan. KJ and Kippy. Love it. They're great. Ah, You Garbage. All right, that's 8 of them. So we have Joe Rogan, Your Mom's House, Matt and Shane Secret Podcast, Chubby Behemoth, We Might Be Drunk, Tuesday with Stories. What did I say already? Are You Garbage? I think that's 8 of them. Or I'm forgetting one. 2 Birds, 1 KO, I think. Whatever. And then we also have. Fuck. Oh yeah, Whiskey Ginger with Andrew Santino. He's fantastic. I love Andrew Santino. Then there's some other shout out ones that I'll do for I listen to every now and then. Like I listen to Flagrant sometimes, or that's with Andrew Schultz. I'll listen to The Honeydew with Ryan Sickler. He's awesome. I love Ryan Sickler. Enough about the podcast. Just know that there's plenty of things you can, from my, Luke Franklin encyclopedia, you can just pull from that you can hear about. And and then I guess you can put Kill Tony in there because it's technically it is a podcast, but I watch that more like a fucking TV show once a week. But how did I even get on the topic of podcast lists? Oh yeah, because it's like a comedy college. Like I listen to all those podcasts every single week, which is at the end of the day, it's like probably 12 hours a week of podcasts, which is probably a lot. That's like a part-time job listening to podcasts, but they're just so easy to listen to. You just throw them on and you're just good. And I knew that I could totally host one if I wanted to, which is why this happened in the first place. But this podcast I want to promote whatever I want on here. Interview people that I enjoy being around and learning about people who maybe I don't know very well. Whatever it is. But this year, I finally decided. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking try. I'm gonna try stand up. I'm gonna try stand up, and I'm gonna see if I'm any good at it, or I should just stick to drums. And let me tell you how this worked out. How I ended up starting my comedy career, because I'm hooked now, and you can't turn me away. It's gonna be part of me now. It's just how it works. But October 25th, 2024. My band, Tinted Plates, is playing at Be Here Now. A place and a band that you should know about by now if you listened all the way to the end of the podcast. We were scheduled to play the show around 10:30 p.m. that night, which is pretty late, especially for live music. We didn't go on until about 11 p.m. But the reason why it was so late was because there was a 2-hour-long comedy show happening before us. And at this time, I had never done stand-up before, but I was most certainly a huge fan of stand-up, and I was probably the most, without being in the comedy scene, I was probably the most critical person, but also well-educated person on comedy in the room, which is kind of a weird place to be because it's kind of just like being a poser. But I was watching these guys who came down, and I wasn't very impressed. Some guys were just kind of gimmick comics. They didn't have a lot of material. They were just kind of like playing into like being, I'm like this. And it's like, oh, it's funny. Oh, here's a cat. And like the host for that show he didn't have any material prepared. He was kind of just talking to a microphone, and it was just bad. It also like set up terribly. Like the stage was not lit properly. The audience members were more in the light than the comic was. There was no elevation for this. Like it just didn't feel proper. We're also in a basement, so there's a whole balcony above the stage where people are just like existing and doing like it just was wrong. I didn't like it at all. But I was watching the show and I was like, oh, fucking cool. And I'm watching with Avery, Mr. Avery Gates, our frontman for Tinted Plates. He works as an intern at Be Here Now, and so I sit next to him watching the show. We're like laughing and whatnot, and he pulls me aside, and he had remembered a conversation in that moment that we had, uh, like right when I first met him. I told him, I was like, hey, my absolute dream in life is to be in a band as the drummer and sell out insane venues like the Hollywood Bowl, the Madison Square Garden, Red Rocks, you name it. Certain other venues that I've been to as a attendant, I want to headline and be on those stages. I want to do that, but I want to do that as a drummer, and then the very next night it's me again, but I'm doing comedy. I want to be a savant of both lanes. I feel like no one's been able to do that, and I feel like I'm young enough and I can get started now. And by the time I'm in my 40s, I can be, that kind of person. That is the ultimate pedestal, right? And we're getting kind of sappy talking about this stuff, and I was kind of spilling my heart into him, and I don't think he forgot about that. And I think he understood. So we're sitting in the basement watching this comedy show, and he's like, "Hey, you still trying to do comedy?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "You want to do 10 minutes before we go on stage?" And I was like, "Holy fucking shit, that's such a scary thing." But I learned. I'm not trying to say this to be like, "Oh, I'm a young macho boy," but if something scares you, you have to first identify exactly what you're afraid of, and then the next step is you gotta just go fucking do it. That's how you conquer shit. It's how you grow as a person. And when Avery offered to have me perform, I was like, holy fuck, dude. Yeah, sure, we'll do it. Fucking, I've been wanting to do it for a long time. Now I have the means to do it. So I was like, yes, I will. But I was so fucking nervous. However, since November of 2023, right after I stopped working at Walmart, it felt like my soul had like less compression on it, and I was able to be creative, and I could do some things that I wasn't doing before. And so I started like writing down bits in my notes app, funny shit to say later on in life, potentially on a microphone, in a stand-up comedy format. I was writing all this shit down in my notes app, and I was, started a routine of doing that. And my rule is that, which most comedians have this rule, like once you do it for a while, it's like, if you have the funny thought, you stop what you're doing right then and there and you write it down, and you fucking work on it later, but you have to make sure you have that idea and capture it while it's happening. That way it won't slip away from you, because I promise you won't remember. So that was in November. About 11 months later, almost a year's worth of shit. I have like 100 things in that joke folder that I have in my notes app. And so Avery's like, "Hey, 10 minutes. You ready for it?" And I'm like, "Oh my god." So which in comedy world, that's a long fucking time to do stand up. And to spoil the surprise, many of you guys know how it happened anyway, but I only did 7.5 minutes when I should have been doing 10. But I didn't want to do it off a notebook. I didn't want to be cheap like that, but I did it, and I pulled some jokes out of my ass that were already like pre-written and stuff. But I also was like trying to riff off the crowd and stuff. But guess what, guys? We went on and did this shit 30 minutes after the headliner had already left, and so no one was there. No one was fucking watching. Nothing great happened the whole time. I was just sitting there speaking up to the fucking balcony, and like the light was in my face. It was during like a Halloween show, so I was like halfway wearing my costumes. It was comedy bedrock. No one laughed at shit I said. But guess what, guys? I fucking did it. And if any of you guys are out here listening and you have some, wildly different dream than what I'm talking about, even if it's at the smallest, most insignificant level, go out there and fucking do it. I don't care if you want to be, you want to sell yarn, and it's really passionate about that. And you have the market figured out. You go out there and you fucking sell yarn. If you want to be a movie director, start writing scripts. Start trying to get behind a camera. Start directing. You got to figure out how to do it. If you want to be the best pool player in the world, you go to a fucking pool hall. You start fucking doing it. I don't want to sound like these. Was it Andrew Huberman or something like that? These like online macho personas. I'm always worried about like coming off as a dick. I don't want to do that. But I want to make sure that I keep those listening. I want to make sure we're all like I want to keep the bravado going of inspiration. I want you to I want to be a dream warrior. I want to be someone who first of all follows my own dreams, but also an advocate for people who also want to follow their dreams. Do that as well. And so since that day on October 5th, 25th, 2020, 2024, that was the beginning of what became my next chapter in my young fun life. And so I didn't do stand up again for like another 6 weeks. I would just kind of like, hey, I fucking did it. That's cool. But then that kind of coasted away, and then I found myself again. We did comedy again. There was a comedy show that happened before us. Like 6 weeks later, Tinted Plates did another show in Muncie, same place. Be Here Now, basement, same thing. And this time I had some shit prepared that I wanted to do, and I went in there on that Saturday, not knowing if I was going to be able to do a set or not. But I talked to the man named Stratton Smith, who is such a fucking positive, nice guy, local Indiana comedian. He's probably done a lot of shit around the Midwest and stuff, but he was hosting and headlining the show before Tinted Plates went on, our band went on, and I saw him and I was like, hey, I did comedy here about 6 weeks ago, and I'd love to do it again. He's like, fuck yeah, dude, we'll have you do 5 minutes, it'll be great. I was like, that's so fucking sweet, awesome, hell yeah. And then I finally did stand up again. It was another 5 minute set, which is much more concise and much easier to manage as a brand new comic. But now, tonight actually, even these past 3 Sundays, I've been going to this bar, which is not, I wouldn't call it scandalous. It's just kind of shaky situation. But there's this bar in Bloomington called Hoppy Wobble's Pub, and they do an open mic night every Sunday around 8 p.m. Sign up start at 7:30, and I haven't missed a date since I started going, which has only been 3. But I mean, dude, I'm doing it, man. It's great, and I'm getting more comfortable on a microphone, and this kind of a thing helps. I'm holding the microphone like I would for stand up right now. I'm sitting down in a chair in my room, but the idea is that I can, I want this to be a very familiar thing. It's something that I want to get good at. So, all in all, to wrap this up, because we are at 90 minutes right now, follow your dreams. It's such a cliche thing to say, but there's a natural fulfillment we all have to have as humans to feel like we're doing the right thing, and to peek into that ultimate happiness. You have to have big old goals in life, and maybe they're not as big as ones I have. I have a pretty hefty fucking goal in my mind, which is a lot to ask for. But if you see yourself doing a certain thing in your head in the future, and you're not sure how to get there, but you really fucking want to do it, there's nothing that should stop you from doing that. Even self-doubt, which I deal with a lot. You have to just push on through and keep doing that, man. I want this show to be funny, and I want this show to be insightful. I want this to be a show that there's no clear theme to it, right? This podcast, but I want this to be a kind of a log in seeing me develop as a human, because I'm 19. I'll be 20 in July, which is, I don't know, that's like, if I do these like once a week, that's, how many episodes is that? Like 4 times 8, we'll call it 30 episodes. That's a lot of time from now, even to develop as a guy. But I think it's important to log these, because I can go back and listen to them anytime I want as I get older. So I always want to stray away from acting like, some sort of macho dick. I don't want to ever do that. But I do know that the feeling of satisfaction that I get, and self-assurance that I feel when I'm doing the things that I love and dream about doing, like hosting a podcast, like playing my drums in front of more than myself, like doing stand-up. It it completes me. You know what I mean? I want this to be aspects of my life forever, and I want to be the best as possible as I can be at that. And I hope to do this to inspire others to do the things they want to do as well. So, in closing, this is only the beginning. I am looking forward to doing this as a routine thing. My goal is to do these, once a week. That's typically how podcasts come out, is once a week. Maybe sometimes twice a week if you have two different kind of things going on. But I want this to be posted on January 1st, 2025. And then maybe I'll figure out a day that works best for me to post them all. This might be rough, and it might be kind of tough to post the first one and have some other ones backlogged. But I just want to make sure that if you're listening to this far, I really appreciate taking an hour and a half out of your time to listen to me talk by myself in my room like a straitjacket victim. Because if it weren't for people like yourself listening that believe in what I do, or at least feel entertained, or at least want to hear what I have to say, I wouldn't have the confidence to do it. And to talk about 21 Pilots fans again, or 21 Pilots as a band itself, they love their fans a lot, more than anyone. I don't think I've ever heard a band express their gratitude towards their foundation fans more than them. And they're really good role models for me, and I take away a lot of professional aspects from them, but also just general aspects of them. They understand that they didn't get where they're at now. It's one of the biggest bands on earth without the foundation and the support and the love from the people that care about them. And most people who are listening to this right now are people who I interact with on a regular basis, which it's hard to, I don't want to romanticize it all too much, because you guys are just friends or family of mine at the moment. But if this takes off the way I want it to, then there's going to be strangers that will know who I am because of this, and I want to make sure that they all feel appreciated. So I think I'm going to close it off for now. There's some things I did not get to on the list, but I got all the big parts. Kill Tony, stand up, games he played, New York, tinted plates, SJC kit, talking about my high school experience, all that stuff. But about 95 minutes. That's about a movie's length of time. It's pretty good. I hope there wasn't a lot of dead space. Hope the audio's clear. I'm really excited to use all this audio equipment. I have the headphones on and stuff. It feels so professional in here. My MacBook's running through GarageBand. My little mixer's going. I can see my vocal range going up. I'm not clipping the mic. That's good. So yeah, I don't have a sign off yet. And I'll that'll come in time. This is the pilot. This is the pilot episode, and you're hearing it first. So I want to give everyone good luck in the 2025, and I have a lot to work on, a lot to progress from in 2025, because I had a really good year. 2024 was awesome. But I'm sure if I stay on the right path, I'm sure I can outdo 2024. It's just gonna be kind of tough. I got to stay in it. But this podcast is going to be a huge part of my year, and I'm excited about it. So thank you guys for listening. I will see you in the next one. My mom is going to be the next guest, so look forward to that. Mama Franklin, Stephanie Franklin. She's my favorite, and you'll get to know her a little bit too. So ta-ta. Adios. I'll see you in the next one. Bruno, shut the fuck up. Bruno's my dog. Okay, all right. Bruno, stop it. You're interfering with a very, very soppy ending. Come on, man. It's 3 a.m. I have work in the morning. Matter of fact, I have work in like fucking 4 hours. Oh, yeah, it's going to be a tough day. It'll be all right, though. I did a good job. I did a good job at stand-up tonight at Hoppy's. I had a good workout. I came home, had a good dinner. I watched an episode of Seinfeld, and now I did the podcast. So it's going good. So the dog will shut the fuck up, I can finally fucking end this episode. And everyone else at home listening right now can go back to doing their thing. So, till next time, I've been Luke Franklin. Thank you guys so much. An hour 38. We'll call it there. Fuck yeah. Love you. Bye.